Peace be upon you. Today we're diving deep into one of the most asked questions of the 20th century. How did Hitler lose? How did the seemingly unstoppable force of Nazi Germany collapse within 6 years after dominating Europe? We'll break down the major mistakes, structural problems, strategic blunders, and turning points that doomed the Third Reich. Let's roll. First off, Hitler didn't simply plan a war of defense. He aimed for world domination in Europe, annexations, living space in the East, elimination of communism, and subjugation of Britain and the USA. His aims were huge and, in many ways, unrealistic. He believed Germany could knock out the Soviet Union quickly and from there dominate Europe, but that set the stage for overreach. One of the biggest structural problems, Germany ended up on two major fronts, the Western Allies and the Soviet Union in the East. By invading the USSR with Operation Barbarossa in June 1941, Hitler opened up a gigantic front line. Why is this so bad? Because resources, men, equipment, supplies had to be divided, logistics become much harder, and Germany's war economy couldn't sustain two large theaters of war indefinitely. Per one analysis, Germany had not the resources to fight on so many fronts at the same time. So from early on, Hitler's ambitions created a structural disadvantage. Another key pillar, economics and resources. Germany could not simply match the combined industrial power of its enemies. For example, by 1944, the German economy was heavily mobilized, but still lagged behind the Allies and the Soviet Union. One side lists 10 reasons why Germany lost, and economics tops the list. Population, raw material, and industrial base. Also, supply lines and logistics became a major issue on the Eastern Front. Germany, advancing deep into Soviet territory, had very long routes and poor preparation for winter, terrain, etc. In simple terms, Germany fought enemies who had more industrial strength, manpower, and resources, and those advantages counted. Now let's get into the mistakes of strategy and operations. Underestimating the Soviet Union, Hitler assumed the USSR would collapse under swift blitzkrieg. Many historians argue that Hitler's leadership style hurt the German war effort. He refused to permit tactical withdrawals, overruled generals, made decisions based on ideology rather than military logic. Germany declared war on the USA after Pearl Harbor indirectly, and thus the US industrial military machine entered the European theaters in full force. Battles like Battle of Stalingrad in 1942-43 and Battle of Kursk in 1943 marked turning points. At Kursk, the Germans lost their last strategic offensive on the Eastern Front. These strategic and operational failures drained Germany's advantages and boosted the Allies. It's important not only to look at Germany's weaknesses, but to see how strong the opposite side was. The Allies, USA, Britain, USSR had huge manpower, industrial and material resources. For example, the population and production figures show a big gap. The Soviet Union was very resilient. Despite enormous losses, they continued to mobilize manpower, moved industry beyond the Urals, and utilized geography and winters to their advantage. The US entry meant massive supplies, material, and eventual dominance in production and logistics. All this meant Germany had to fight against a stacked deck. So Hitler's enemy was simply too strong in the long run. The German economy and manpower were exhausted. The infrastructure was destroyed and supply chains collapsed. Hitler's leadership had lost its grip, and the regime's collapse became inevitable. On April 30th, 1945, Hitler committed suicide in his bunker. Berlin fell shortly after. When you look at all these factors together, you see that Germany's defeat was much more than one battle lost. It was a combination of strategic, operational, economic, and moral failures. That's why Hitler lost. To wrap up, this isn't just about history. What the collapse of Hitler's Germany teaches us is massive ambition without sustainable foundation fails, resources matter, leadership, economy, and moral all count. So thanks for watching. If you like this, subscribe to my little channel and stay curious, stay informed.